is the Catholic Family Podcast, and I'm joined by my dad. That would be Dan Davis over here next to me. You all should know both of us by now, I suppose, but we're doing something that we haven't done often. We haven't done for a while, and that is streaming live. Dad had to hop over to a library because the internet wasn't good enough at
internet
home.
was crashed today, yeah.
So I guess it's the issue with living out in the boonies in Iowa. It has a lot of benefits, but it also has its disadvantages. But today we wanted to talk about something that I was really honestly inspired by, and I had heard the story of this guy, the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, and I'd heard his story. I'd seen some of his speeches before, and I found that obviously interesting. If anyone has heard his speeches or knows anything about him, they would be interested as well. I'm absolutely sure about that. And then I watched the interview yesterday with Tucker Carlson, and literally, I think maybe an hour after I'd finished listening, Dad, you messaged me, you're like, "Hey, we got to do a show on this." Like, yeah. It's like we do have to do a show on this because it really is. It's an amazing look into how you can actually run a country properly, seemingly so far, and democratically. And right. Everyone knows I'm not a fan of democracy, or at least not in the worship of democracy. But it's an interesting look. I highly recommend everyone to watch the full interview after watch what we had to say, and then go watch the whole interview because we're only talking about a little part of it. Very, very good interview. But I think today we wanted to play some clips from it and just kind of do what we do, comment on it, I suppose.
Right, and I think one of the things that really fascinates me about Nayib Bukele, he kind of got on my radar maybe a few months ago. I think it was right after he won re-election, 85% of the vote. And I watched him speak, and you see some of these other leaders out there that are starting that are conservative, nationalist, populist, bringing some morality, bringing some slashing government. And you've got Georgia Maloney, and you've got Javier Milei in Argentina, and you've got Donald Trump here in America. And for the most part, these are all extremely brash individuals. They're showmen to a large degree. It's almost like they're trying to get in and achieve the first part of their taking over their country through theatrics. And I mean, there's something to be said for that. And I think that there is a value there. But when you watch this guy Bukele, you'll see, I mean, he is extremely humble, soft-spoken individual. And how I think we'll see as time goes how the story plays out, that how did a guy that this humble and this spiritual and this Christian and this prayerful and whatnot take over the biggest dunghole country in the Western Hemisphere, or one of them, and certainly the most violent, and has completely transformed it over the course of 5 or 6 years. It's a fascinating story, but I think then when you hear his telling of the story, it's just fascinating.
Well, and he mentions that El Salvador was the most dangerous country on earth. 5-6 years ago?
5 years, yeah.
And a part of what they did, and I don't know if we get into this in our conversation today, but they put away 70,000 dangerous criminals. Just did it, just like in one fell swoop. And it's just unbelievable what they did. And it's just really fascinating when you watch the story. And it's something, I think it's a clip that we missed, but he was saying before they rounded up these criminals, which they thought was going to be like a war. And amazingly, I think only 8 people died. I mean, 8 good guys died, and no civilians, as far as I remember, which is an incredible thing. And he said that, before they went into this, what they did first before making these decisions was prayed. They literally said they prayed. And Tucker Carlson's like, wait, you did what?
You prayed? Yeah.
You're in your ministry or whatever. You prayed? And he's like, yeah, of course. Of course that's what we did. It's really, and I hope anyone who just hears that should make them think, okay, that's immediately something that is interesting. And I think we weren't going to start with clip 1, but I actually want to start with clip 1 because I think it's really interesting that he says, so, with how that all worked. And I think in this clip, he was talking especially about the criminals, if I'm right. And he's like, there's 2 ways to describe it. There's the official way, which is we did, this, and, we did all these things, we
made a plan.
We made a plan. We did all these things. And then he's like, and then there's the unofficial way. And this is what he said.
That's the official.
Yeah, that's the official one.
What's the real?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
I love that. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's a miracle.
I just love that. I think you just get a little bit of a glimpse of the guy just in
Yeah.
that one little line. Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic, and I think that Tucker Carlson was absolutely taken back by it and laughed at it and whatnot, but I think that at the same time, hey, we prayed for it and we got a
Yeah.
miracle, and I think that you see what you see coming through here, and he doesn't talk a lot about his faith in this. He's a little bit more about the strategy of how how they transformed El Salvador and whatnot. But I think what you see with him is very much this very simple faith that we trust in God. And God's going to take care of us. And in this case, he took care of us.
Well, and he talks about like the policy of being open with the people that's what they do. Like he's like, it's like, no, actually, why are we always giving in to these other nations or other people when the people of El Salvador actually are
they
Catholic
want prayer.
People? Exactly. They want their president praying. He's like, so it's not like we're just, we're not just doing it. We're doing it because we actually want God's help, but we're also telling people because we actually do also want to politicize. We actually do want to tell them, hey, look, we're doing what you want us to do. We're getting rid of the criminals and we're praying on how to do it. And it's a really fascinating, and I think he's a really honest guy. He admits that they're not doing it to be political, but he's like, hey, we're doing what our people want us to do. We're praying for our country. And it's really fascinating. So I think we wanted to start with a kind of a longer clip here. Is that right, Doug?
Well, yeah. This one shows the spiritual aspect of what they're doing, which is fascinating. That you have to take care of the spiritual first, and then I think he goes on to I think Tucker Carlson asked him what the first three things he's going to do in terms of trying to clean up the economy is, and wait till you hear his answer. It's amazing.
And keep in mind, everyone, that the restream, what we're streaming with, has kind of it's not the best program. So we had to play the clip all the way through without comments. So it's about three. This one's definitely the longest clip we'll play. It's about 3 minutes. So again, this is Nayib Bukele on the Tucker Carlson show.
I remember the news outlet that made it this, but it's a very well-known news outlet that made this interview with a gang member in person. We allowed them to go into prisons and do the interviews. And the guy that they asked him, how many people have you killed? And he said, I don't remember. He didn't remember how many, probably 10, 20. He didn't remember. And then they asked him, and what is your position in the gang? He explained how he went up in positions, but I left the gang. I said, why did you left the gang? And he said, well, because I was used to kill people. But I killed for territory. I killed to collect money. I killed for extortion. But I came to to this house, and they were about to kill a baby. And the killer that had killed tens of people, said, "Oh, wait, what are we doing? Why are we going to kill that baby?" And they told him, because the beast asked for a baby, so we have to give him a baby. So he said that he couldn't resist that, so he left the gang. He's in prison because he's a killer, but he left the gang because he couldn't tolerate what he was seeing.
So human sacrifice was a part.
Well, in the United States a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, I don't remember exactly, I saw the news that they were going to kill a young girl, or they killed a young girl, I don't exactly remember, because it was a satanic ritual. It happened in the U.S. a couple of weeks ago.
So that's almost never described in English language press as clearly as you just described it.
No, which is weird, right?
Well, you sort of wonder why.
Yeah.
If there's a spiritual component that's driving it, why not just say so?
Yes.
But I guess my point is you saw it as that.
Yes, of course. There's a spiritual war and there's a physical war. And the physical war could be, that's the unofficial.
Yes.
That's the unofficial version. The spiritual, if you win the spiritual war, it will reflect into the physical war. So I don't know how to call it, our impressive victory was because we won the spiritual war very, very fast.
Well, that leads me,
because you didn't have competition. I mean, they were satanic. I think that made it easier.
In your inaugural, and I was listening on headphones for the translation, so I just want to check this. You said, we have achieved this great victory and made this a safe country, and that's the predicate for everything that follows. And the next thing we're going to do in this term is to work on the economy to make it better.
Grow the economy, yeah.
And you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said I have a 3-point plan, and I'm thinking, I wonder what that is. I don't know, start a Federal Reserve Bank? And you said the first point of my plan is seek God's wisdom.
Yes.
That is what you said.
Yeah, I said that, yeah.
Why would that be the first point of an economic plan?
Why wouldn't it be? What should be the first part of the plan?
Well, I think it should be.
Yeah.
But I can't.
And most people would think that, right?
I've never heard any leader of any country say that.
Because they probably forgot to represent the people that elect them. Yeah.
Wow. So much to unpack.
Kills, isn't it?
Yeah. And I had to mention real quickly that the satanic stuff that was regarding the MS-13 gang. So that's what they're talking about when they put in away 70,000 people. Most of them were these gang members who were satanic, and so that's the context of that.
And if anybody's not aware, I mean, MS-13 is a big issue down in southern part of the United States, and I mean they do some of the dirty lifting for the deep state as well down here. So I mean they are a big, powerful, nasty, horrible, satanic gang, and for them to have taken them on, because their headquarters, basically their roots, were down in El Salvador, and for them to have taken them on and looked at it as from a spiritual standpoint first, and then taken them out and put 70,000 of them behind bars is just, I mean, it blows your mind.
Yeah, it really does. I think it's one of these things that for sure there are people we both have talked about them. These people out there who are saying, oh, it's just a show. Nothing like this nothing good can actually happen in politics. It's
right. Like, all controlled.
Sure, it's all controlled, but I mean, why would a president say this? I mean, let's just say it's not even why. What's he gaining from it, really? I mean, I think it's really interesting that he's just admitting that there is a spiritual warfare, and again, he's saying that's the first warfare, and then it's physical. I mean, I dare one of our black-pilled friends to twist that one. There's just that one. There's no way, because he's literally saying exactly what everyone should be saying, and for me, it's one of the best white pills I've had in years, because it really makes me think democracy actually can.
It can work. It can work. And I think that, whether it's democracy or whether it's monarchy, and I think honestly there's some fine lines between democracy and monarchy, but whatever your form of government is, it has to be rooted in an acknowledgement and accepting the rights and privileges of Christ the King. And I don't know how formally they're doing that down in El Salvador, but you can see in a practical, tactical, day-to-day sense, they really are, that they are praying to Christ the King or to Christ or whatever it is. And they're seeing results or seeing victories. Now, whether they've written that into the Constitution, whether it's part of the vow of the monarch, whatever it is, I mean, that needs to really get to where you want to be. That needs to be built into the highest levels of your government. And, El Salvador is probably not there. I think Poland was there for a short time and kind of lost it. Hungary's kind of there. There are some countries on earth that are trying to move that direction, but that's really what it needs to be. It needs to be Christ the King, who is acknowledged as being in charge of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's absolutely the ideal. But just saying that your people, that's what they want, and how big of a step is that too? And it shows you too, again, that and it's the same in America. We have these political divides, and the media pushes all these negative things to make it seem like we all hate each other, everything's bad, everyone that's not us is evil, and it's obviously not true. And it's an interesting thought that, like, if the American people had someone like this come up and say, "Hey, look, I'm gonna lead this country through actual prayer, not just the token prayer, the Obama, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, and yeah, right, give me a break, but this guy really seems he's talking about a spiritual warfare. I mean, I wonder, and I do think if someone actually ran on that and actually promised, hey, look, you want crime gone? It'll be gone within a year. You want the economy fixed? Yeah, exactly. Pray on it, and then put it into action. They put all these guys in prison, for goodness sake. So, So they've done both, and I actually think that Americans of political sides, I think maybe you could actually get a Democratic vote that would vote in someone like this. I'm not so far gone in my hopes for America to think that couldn't happen.
Right. Well, you might want to go ahead and play clip 3. I think it's clip 3 and 4 where he starts to really talk about how America, if he could do it, we can do it. And it's really kind of his message there.
Came here, to be totally honest, is what your success says about the country that I live in or other countries in the hemisphere or in Europe where people are killed by the thousands every year. And what you've proven with very little money and no help from anyone else is it's not that hard to fix. Therefore, all that killing must be a voluntary decision that my government and many other governments are making about their own citizens.
You can make that logical.
Well, I don't know what other conclusion to reach. If El Salvador can do it, what's going on here?
Yes, you can make that logical conclusion. I think that's probably what they are afraid of. Because, I mean, we don't have weapons of mass destruction, right?
No.
So why are they afraid? Why would they take so much time in make condemnations to El Salvador, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you didn't send a man to the moon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think they're afraid of the example. Because a lot of people might say, hey, we want that too. If they can do it with no money, with very few resources, and with a huge problem, because I heard some people say, oh, El Salvador could do it because the problem was not that big. I'm like, we're literally the murder capital of the world. How bigger can it get, right? We were literally the most dangerous place in the world, 3 times more dangerous than Haiti right now. So, I mean, how bigger can the problem get? And at the same time, we had very few resources, and we were able to do it with no civilian casualties. After we started the war on gangs, we had no civilian casualties. And we lost 8 between police officers and soldiers. And we basically eradicated all crime.
Yeah, and there's a point that he made there that I got to probably pick up on real quick. He talks about how the condemnation from other countries, and it's unbelievable. I was trying to just do a little bit of background research for the show and for this discussion on Bukele, and went through Google and just typed in his name, and it's absolutely unbelievable. The first 3, 4, 5 pages, it's all New York Times, to CNN, it's MSNBC, and it's all about how he was unconstitutional in his victory, how he was taking away human rights from people down in his country, how he's basically the bad guy. And so you really do have a media superstructure here that is condemning what he's doing. And it's because they don't want the example. They don't want that success. They want violence and people hating each other. I mean, they feed off it. It's their agenda.
Yeah. And there's just something about watching him too that makes me, I know people are going to hate me for this. I mean, but bring me a dictator like this guy. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, this is this worship of democracy. If I had a guy like this, young, obviously intelligent, obviously, at least somewhat devout, I mean, at least considers prayer and God, etc. I mean, why do we need an election after 4 years of some moronic 81-year-old? I mean, right. it just strikes me. It's like whatever we are doing right now is so broken. Yeah. Why not have? Please, El Salvador, come conquer America.
Well, and here's something, Kevin, that didn't come out in this interview because I think it's a little bit fresh in the news. Bukele called, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago now, he called his entire cabinet together. Okay. And I think he goes in the interview about the attorney general down there is actually a bigger position than it is here. And it's created by Congress. It's named by Congress. It's not the president who names the attorney general. And I think they have a higher state there than they do here. But he got a new attorney general that was going to be, friendly to his cause. And then he called his entire cabinet together and he said, I'm going to have the attorney general investigate every one of you, including myself, for bribery and for other abuses of office. Okay. Now you think about it. what is the hallmark of tyranny? Hallmark of tyranny, or one of them, certainly, is that leaders create a two-tiered system of justice. That they take the spoils for themselves and they give the people, what's left. And so, and we have that in spades. And look at Nancy Pelosi. I mean, we have this in spades in our country now. And there he is trying to root it out to the point where if you are even being bribed as a member of his cabinet, you're going to get thrown out. And so, it sounds heavy-handed, but at the same time, I think he's trying to create the exact reverse of a tyrannical government, which is one that really, truly works for the people.
Well, it makes you kind of have to almost chuckle. It's like, CNN writing about this. How dare he do this? It's like,
yeah,
what is it that we are doing that's working right now? We have a 77-year-old felon and an 81-year-old lunatic running against each other. It's like quite literally laughable. So it's like, I mean, again, it's like, and I thought it was really interesting. This is another point that really struck me, and I don't know if it's on a clip, but everyone go watch the full interview. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's well worth an hour.
It's totally worth an hour. And he said that, he's been accused of kind of rigging these things and, not being democratic or whatever, but no, he was democratically elected 85%. And pretty much what it sounded like, what my impression was, he told the country, like, hey, look, people, look, I can do my best, but if we don't get it in enough of the Congress, I can't appoint attorney general. I can't clean up the da. And you know what the people did? They went and they voted in a good Congress so that now he has, and it's just like, duh. Why is this so complicated? Why is it that we're learning this like really basic politics from El Salvador? It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
It's crazy. Play clip 4, Kevin, and then we'll debrief on that and talk about where we stand in the United States.
Leadership. But I'll tell you something. If you see the mess that we were living here,
yes,
it's a bigger mess than what you have over there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, just the fact that a third of our population fled the country and went to the United States.
I know.
Gives you an example that the mess we were living here and that we still have in other areas that, not safety. We're the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, but we have problems in other areas, like the economy, for example.
Yeah.
But our problems were bigger than your problems in relative sizes.
So you said
so if you can fix a mess like this in the U.S. with a limited amount of wealth, with scientists, innovation like no other country in the world. Still, the innovation is coming from the U.S. It's more than any other country still, right? Even not because of the government, but it has the best innovators, AI.
For sure.
I mean, anything. So you still have the best innovators. You still have the biggest companies. You still have the world reserve currency, the biggest wealth, the biggest GDP.
You know what else we have? The most true masses. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to get SSPX or whatever in France and Germany. But I mean, as far as true masses in the grace of the true sacraments, we also lead the world in that too. Now, we probably, in some regards, we lead the world in degeneracy. We lead it in bad food. We lead it in Hollywood. So, I mean, I think that our scales are tipped more towards the negative, towards the positive. But I think we also are really ground zero of this spiritual war. And that's where I think that he's looking at it, Bukele's looking at it down in El Salvador as good versus evil, as him versus the gangs, the Satanists. And he said, well, that was kind of easy. I think what he was maybe making reference to is the fact that we have CNN, we've got MSNBC, we've got Wall Street, we've got so many layers of evil that are built into our system, that it is truly a major spiritual warfare. But we have to ask the question, why do we have it in our minds that we can't win this battle? Right?
Mhm.
We have God on our side, and we have more. And now, granted, our numbers are puny, but the grace that's coming from our priests is enormous. And we don't have the right leaders at this point. You know, Donald Trump may do what he does, but yeah, I mean, why can't we win this battle?
I mean, maybe part of it is because we're too meek. We're too. I think that we, especially when you're starting to talk about the niche group of traditional Catholics, true traditional Catholics. We do have the true sacraments, but I think we're still in this idea of being persecuted and kind of in the catacombs, and it's just simply not true. And I think
Mhm.
because it's not true, I think you have people who want it to be true, partly because it's romantic, partly because then maybe people believe then we'll have a true pope, and maybe that's true. Maybe then we'll go to heaven faster. Maybe we'll be martyred. I understand those types of things, but I honestly think part of it too is that I think a lot of people understand that they are not doing their duty, and I think that they're even I don't want to throw around the word sinning, but patriotism is a virtue, and in being whatever is opposite of patriot is obviously then a vice. So these are serious things, and I think that's part of the issue that I think Catholic men and women, but especially men, need to stand up and start taking some sort of action. For goodness sake,
Yeah,
if it's just voting, just
yeah,
if that's it, then vote and
do
have these
something. Do
conversations.
something.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the older men, and we've had this conversation before. It's going a little off topic. The men of the older generations have to get informed, and then they have
Mhm.
to take the younger men under their arms and say, "Look, I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but here's how these things work. Here's an idea. Go learn this. Go read this. Go whatever." And I think that that's what we have to start doing. And it's not like we're saying everyone needs to run for office, but
No, but I think we've gotten a little bit lazy and kind of decided that if we go out and we say "woe is me" on the internet, and then we pray our rosary, it's like, okay, I've done my part,
right.
and here's two pieces of good news for you, Kevin, this week. Hopefully, ones that we can build on is that we are having tonight, for the Feast of the Sacred Heart, and First Friday, we're having in Omaha mass tonight, or mass and holy hour, and it's the first time in years that we've had that, and I think it's just the dynamics of the church that we've had struggles getting that put together, and so now we're having that tonight. So that's a big step forward for us, and we are tentatively, it's not finalized, but we're tentatively scheduling a pilgrimage. And so
Yes.
I figured that was going to be a big one. You're going to really love to hear that, and
Awesome.
I won't give any details yet because I think it's not really official. I think it's official, but it's not. There's no firm plans yet, but it's probably
Mhm.
summer or fall. But anyways, yeah, I mean, we are starting to see some action out there, and I think that that's really where we have to go. We have to take action. We have to really fight for this thing in order to win.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And again, of course, again, as Bukele says, it starts 100% with the spiritual side, and if
Sure,
you win that,
absolutely. You have to win the spiritual battle first. Yeah.
exactly. But I firmly believe, and again, Matt and I talked about this last week. The popes clearly the last, I don't know, we were going through, I think, Pope Leo the 13th, Pius the 12th, Pius the 11th, clearly say the Catholic men should have some part to play in their society. And
Hmm.
again, patriotism is a virtue. And if you start going down the road, we did it. There's a great article by Louis Verrecchio from canon law, canon lawyers, I should say, who discuss the issues of, again, not caring about your country or hating your country.
Right.
Don't go down that road. It is a very, very bad road, and it's dangerous for your soul. That I can
Yeah.
absolutely positively say. Anyway, I mean, I think that, but that's the beauty of, I think, these types of videos from Bukele, and I thank
Mhm.
Tucker Carlson for doing it, because it does give you some hope. It's like, I mean, that's what Bukele is kind of doing too. That's what he's kind of saying. Like, hey,
Right.
we did it. you know,
And granted, I know a lot of people out there are going to say, "Hey, we don't win the war until we get a pope, because the pope is he who holds back the hand of the devil," and he is. And I mean that's Second Thessalonians, and until we get a pope, we're not going to win. Well, you know what? I think that perhaps God is he, I mean, yeah, he's taken away the pope for the time being, and we don't have it. But to me, it's like a young kid trying to ride their bicycle without training wheels. We're going to have to just do this ourselves. Now, what does victory mean? Perhaps if we take over I mean, there's, what is it, the Moscow, Idaho, and it's Protestants, it's not Catholic, but they've basically taken over that town, and they're starting to reform it as a Christian, town. And we got to define our victories, maybe small, but let's win small. Okay, shoot small, aim small, win small, right? Or whatever you say.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think one last comment on that I think they'll say, well, we don't have our father. We're like a family of children that lost their father. We don't have a father. The Pope's not, and that's true.
Right.
But
It's
I
true.
think, but again, the point being, okay, if so, you being my father, and I'm a little kid, you're killed or you're gone. Does that mean that the children should just kind of give up?
Wither away and die.
Should they
Yeah.
not try to unify together and say, hey, we have to fight this together until dad comes back? I mean,
Right.
and I think that's the point, that it's like, I mean, the lack of unity, or the lack of desire, these infightings, and I mean, there are a lot of issues there with the clergy that I'll leave to the clergy, but I mean,
Mhm.
speaking only for the people, it's like, hey, we're still siblings. We're
Yeah.
literally family members. We're all family members, and we're not supposed to be smacking at each other. It's meant
Right.
to be, even if dad's gone, we have to do our absolute best until he comes back. And I think that's kind of, again, the white pill in my mind. That's like, hey, let's go, come on, let's
Let's keep
pilgrimage,
fighting.
let's
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's band
let's
together.
vote, let's be informed. Men's groups, I think, are awesome, because I think that's,
Yep.
again, how you spread knowledge. And I think if you get men's groups where you fight, or not fight, that's the wrong word, but if you argue, because we have men's meetings and they get hot sometimes. They
Mhm.
do. I mean, and I think, honestly, that's kind of good, because I think
Kind of
it
good.
shows you we don't agree on everything. We have different
Yeah. There's some
philosophies,
passion
and
there.
yeah, it's good.
Well,
It's like,
and
hey,
I can tell you
makes me
too,
think.
and I don't know if are there any other potential men's groups. I mean, if folks are out there, but we set up a men's group in Omaha, and I think you can already start to see the fruits of it in a good way. We meet once a month, and we had this question up front that said, basically, is this going to be a doing group, or is it going to be more of a fellowship type of a group? And I think what we decided is that we really wanted to be a group that was geared towards the edification of the members, right? And so when we get together, it's to discuss. We may have somebody read out of a book or whatever and talk it through, or whatever. But it's really not. I mean, we have no money, right? We're not. We have done almost no a couple projects, but very few. But for the most part, we're getting together to nourish each other spiritually, because there's so few opportunities for us to do that. And that's a good way to get out there and just help make your Sundays great, and add an hour or two to one Sunday a month, and actually nourish spiritually.
No, absolutely, and I guess this isn't spiritually, and again, we're kind of off topic, but it's something
Right.
that I found really interesting at one of our men's meetings, or a couple of them that we did, and this I recommend everyone to do, because it really gives you a different idea of how to go about arguing. That we picked a topic that was kind of controversial, or a couple, and someone kind of lays it out. But it's timed, so it's like a debate.
Hmm.
You have 2 minutes to lay out your thesis, I suppose, and then people can raise their hand and come up and defend it, or attack it, and then you kind of get the chance to respond. And it's really interesting, and it's really rewarding, because it's something that
Hmm.
it makes you. It's not, because then it's not, you're not sitting there, drinking a beer and chatting. You're not fighting, because you can't. It's you have to go up there on that podium and give your thoughts that have to be really concise and good. And it's a really good skill that I think
Hmm.
most people don't have, because we're so used to Twitter being like, oh,
Right.
just shots fired,
Yeah.
ba-doo. It's like, okay, it's dumb. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help. It's just waste of time. So I highly recommend it. If anyone does men's meetings, do that. But say pants, women wearing pants or skirts. It's a very hot topic, but I think that's
Right.
okay, because I think that's kind of what you're looking for, right? I think you're looking for these types of things that make it you got to really know what you're going up to say. Anyway, off topic. We should probably get back to President Bukele. I mean, do we want to go to cut 5?
5, I think. I'm kind of, yeah.
Was built to be a superpower, right? Acquire land, acquire fertile lands, Texas was part of Mexico, but it's part of the U.S. and you have all the oil there. So, and then you have California. And the U.S. is built as a superpower. So the U.S. has everything to go on for 1,000 years. It's not like it's doomed to fail. But apparently the leaders, or most of them, you have probably very good leaders, but most of the leaders, they're not seeing it. Either they are evil, or this is not a conspiracy theory. It's just the options you have. Either they're evil, and they want to destroy the U.S. because of some evil reason, or they're puppets, and they are being handled by people that need the U.S. to be destroyed for some reason, or they're incompetent, and they just doing wrong stuff because they're not capable of doing the right stuff.
Why don't we just hear this kind of practical things more often?
Yeah, it's so real. One of the things that kind of came to mind as I was watching this again is a comment I heard. It kind of broke my heart this couple months ago, and it was basically a headline of a video, and it said, "San Francisco is lost forever." Okay, and we know what's going on in San Francisco. You got drug use, and you got poop street maps and all this terrible stuff. It's just, it really is a cesspool at this point. But you know what? San Francisco is a naturally beautiful place. It sits right on the water. It has beautiful inlets. The buildings might or might not survive. Golden Gate Bridge might or might not survive, over the course of generations. But there's no reason that a Nayib Bukele or a mayor, Rudy Giuliani did it at one point in New York, can't get in there and clean things up and make San Francisco gorgeous again. Okay, and I think maybe they're showing a little bit of signs that they're starting to hit rock bottom. They're starting to bottom out there a little bit, but at the same time, it's going to take strong leadership. But there's no reason that it can't happen, and I think that's the kind of the point he's making there. It's like, come on, if I can do this, Bukele is saying, if I can do this in El Salvador, which they have almost no resources. They have very little oil. I don't even know if they have a lot of foresting or anything like that. And so if they can do it there, why can't we do it here?
Well, and I think it's a sad question. I think, also about democracy, because I think you see, okay, for our presidency right now, you have someone who is mentally not there. He's very old and he's declining mentally. No one denies that. Everyone agrees with that. That's just true. And they literally are, going after the other side. The president, the candidate, in court, trying to drag him through the mud for things that happened decades ago or 10 years ago, and it's misdemeanor charges. It's really nothing big, and it's clearly, again, almost no one even denies it. It's total charade. It's total games, and the economy is bad. The border is bad. But you're still going to have 49% of people at least vote for Joe Biden in the elections.
Well, that's
why are we so dumb?
And I think the reason I would say, and it gets back to the spiritual again, that rightly or wrongly, for that 49%, for 40% of the country, whatever the Democrats represent, Donald Trump represents virtue. Okay, now these are virtues that they are hostile towards, and that's where you get this idea of the Trump derangement syndrome. These people hate Donald Trump with such a passion that they're okay. They'll deal with Joe Biden because they don't want to deal with the virtue that Donald Trump represents, and it might be in the form of abortion, of overturning Roe versus Wade, or forcing people without a job to get jobs, or who knows exactly what it represents to them. And I think the reality is that Donald Trump is not the world's most virtuous man, but he does represent it. And so I think anybody who represents virtue to them, they will fight against. And that's the spiritual battle that we have to take on. We have to win hearts. We have to, and I don't know what that means. I think that in my mind, there's only 5 or 10% of the population that is truly, genuinely lost forever in terms of never being able to convince them. I think that you've got another of that 49%, you've got 20 to 30, the largest portion of them are basically just bandwagoners. They're followers. They don't follow the news. They don't think for themselves. They just do what everybody else does. And I think that once that snowball starts to go down the hill, and you get the Bukele's in charge. I'm sure he had his probably 30 or 40% that were his, ardent detractors as well. But he starts to get into power. He gets popular. He starts to show results. He gets fruits. And then next thing you know, that 20 or 30% is on his side. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Donald Trump. He's going to have a big chunk of that 49% that if he gets in, if he starts to, take out the deep state, if he starts to do some of these things that he's promised to do, you'll see that group fall in line and very much become a part of his system.
Ooh, I hope you're right. Well, Dad, I want to make sure we stay under 45 minutes or around
Okay.
45 minutes. So do we want to go to clip 6? Let's see.
Yeah, let's go ahead and try one more clip.
Or 7. Do you have a preference?
Let's try it 7. I think 7 kind of wraps things up if I remember right. It was right at the end of the interview.
Perfect.
Getting a lot of Americans moving here?
Yes. I mean, probably in numbers it won't be significant to you, but yes, you can see it. I mean, you can see it everywhere. And we're also getting something that's very meaningful to us, is that we're getting a lot of our diaspora, a lot of our immigrants, the people that emigrate El Salvador because of the war, or because of the gangs, or because of the economical issues that have always happened here. A lot of them are coming back. And there's a study made at the IOM and USAID. Sorry, I'll send you the link.
Yes.
There's a study made by the IOM and the USAID that says that 62% of Salvadorans living in the United States want to come back to live here.
Amazing.
62%. And 18% are already making plans to come. That's over 500,000 Salvadorans coming back.
So there's how you cure your immigration problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how you cure your immigration problem, is just meet these other countries. Now it looks like from what I've seen, and I haven't really dove deeply into this, but it looks like Mexico is going the opposite direction. They look like they're getting nastier rather than better. And I know that we have in Brazil too. Yeah, Brazil too, right? It's going off the rails. So I mean, things aren't necessarily all good, but at the same time, you can see that that they're heading the right direction, and I suppose maybe they'll kind of become that shining light and draw people back to them.
Well, and someone wanted me to mention too that El Salvador, I don't exactly know what it is that they do with Bitcoin, but because I don't think it's not their official. Someone has said that it's their official currency. I don't think that's true, but there's something how the government officially allows it to be used as an official source of
for transactions.
Trade, something like that, but it's not their. I'm pretty sure it's not their official source of trade or monetary value. But that's also an interesting thing, because again, I think it makes sense. You're just trying to disconnect from the big banks, and from the the globalism, I suppose, and to go with something that is blockchain, that's much more singular, and I like the idea of Bitcoin. I have people close to me here who are very big into Bitcoin. I still tend to think that if the governments really want to, they can just shut down Bitcoin.
They can shut down Bitcoin, yeah. Shut down
so
power.
It's like, so what's the actual? Yeah, I guess that's the question. But I like the idea of it. Certainly, definitely better than a federal bank. But and I just wanted to mention that because someone said I should, and I think that is true. That I think that's just another point that this guy's done, that Bukele's done. That's just like, he just does things that make sense. You put all the bad guys in prison. You get rid of the Federal Reserve, or you start heading that way. You pray. You put things into the hands of God. I mean, and I think, like you said, that it's not like the whole world is fixed, for goodness sake. Obviously not. Germany is a mess. America is maybe the biggest mess in the world in a lot of ways right now. It was definitely the most laughing stock of the world.
Oh man,
But it shows you again, you can go from being the most dangerous country on earth to being, as he says, the safest within 5
yeah.
years. So
There is
it
a
can
road to
happen.
it.
Yeah.
We have to throw off the shackles that bind us. We have to, and the globalists basically are the ones that hold us down. And that is a huge, I mean, it's a gargantuan, enormous, huge task. But we all have to think about what can we do individually to help make that happen. I get Bitcoin. I don't know, get gold and silver. I don't know, to vote. I mean, there's run for office. That's I think probably going to be one of the themes of our show going forward. Is how do we take action? Pilgrimage, right? um,
Men's
First
group.
Fridays,
Yeah.
and
First
and
Friday.
of course we got to win the spiritual war first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. And again, I think being educated on it, it doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to listen to podcasts all day or read all the stories, but just understand a bit of what's going on in the world and what's going on in America, and be able to, again, take the young kids under your wing. Because I remember that. I mean, it's not like I'm an older generation, but I've had it before, where even when I was in the U.S., I was actually quite a bit younger, um, so late 20s, and I was talking to people who were just turning 18, 19, 20 who were voting. So this would have been it would have been coming up to Trump's election, I think, first election. And they didn't know anything about anything. I mean,
Right.
like nothing, like zero. And I think it's just somehow something is failing them in how they're learning about economics, about politics, about literally just kind of saying even just a little bit in touch with, okay, is Trump a terrible person? Is he a maniac? Is Biden just be a little bit informed enough that you can tell the younger people what's going on, especially now. I'm telling you, that's another thing that I really think is important. Go and find the 18, 19-year-olds at church and say, hey, how are you feeling about this election? Talk to them about it.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying you got to convince them to vote for Trump. That's
Right.
not the point at all. Some people don't want to vote. Some priests say that in this case, they wouldn't vote. So that's not my point. But I mean, just
Right.
are they at least aware of it? Don't let these young kids go into this without anything. Just like, oh, duh, oh, I guess I could have voted. No, come on, that's not appropriate. I think again, patriotism is something people need to really take seriously. Again, I cannot say it enough. It is a virtue to be a
Hmm.
patriot. So
And if we don't take it seriously, we're going to have it taken away, and that's exactly what's happening in our country.
that's it. Awesome. Dad, it's been fun. Everyone who's been not really in the chat box, but who's been watching, we appreciate it. We had kind of a strange time without any forewarning or sharing or anything, so it's not too surprising we didn't have too many people on the live side. But if anyone is interested in more live shows, we've tried it in the past. Let us know.
Mhm.
It's super easy on our side in terms of we don't have to publish it to YouTube and all that
Yeah.
jazz. So and it's fun, especially when people come and join us in the chats. That we really very sincerely enjoy that. That's like the best part of it when you guys add to the conversation and say, "Hey, this is what I think of Bukele or Trump or voting or whatever," because that makes it it adds that extra color to the show. So if you want more live shows, let us know. It's not like we can always do it. Dad internet issues or
Right.
finding
Work.
spots in the library, work.
Yeah.
Our time differences. It can be hard, but we want to make you guys happy and to hopefully provide interesting content. But anyway, yeah, everyone, please, go and pray, be active, do a pilgrimage, do men's meetings, all that stuff, and please like, share, subscribe, comment, and all of that jazz as well. And go check out the full interview on Tucker Carlson. I
Yeah.
know you can find it at tuckercarlson.com. Just you can also look on YouTube, Tucker Carlson. You'll definitely find it there as well. Dad, until next time, God bless you.